an animal's body. I could have seen that animal a week ago outside the slaughterhouse when I was doing activism, and now I'm sat here and someone I love is consuming their, you know, their flesh or their secretion.
Hi beautiful beings, it's Rebecca, the Vegan Pixie Warrior. Today I'm interviewing a friend of mine, Abby, who has taken the Liberation Pledge, and we're going to find out more about what it means to her. I've actually known Abby for just over a year. She attended a workshop in Bristol, and it was at that workshop she finally decided to take the leap and take the Liberation Pledge, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi, and Abby, thank you very much for joining me on my channel today. How are you?
That's okay. Thanks so much for having me. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. We haven't seen each other for a little while. I think
No.
we saw each other at a demo up north for
Bracelet.
Yeah, that was hard work that day, but yeah, it was nice to see you again. And it'd been a while then as well since I'd seen you. So
yeah.
Can I ask how you went vegan? You know, what was the trigger point for you, and how long have you been vegan?
So in February it'll be 8 years, so almost 8 years now.
Wow.
It was less of a trigger point of going vegan and more of like a kind of, not quite a gradual thing, but like a learning about what happens in the dairy and egg industries. And I was vegetarian before that for a couple of years as well. And I didn't really even understand like the conditions in like the meat and dairy industries. I didn't understand that we kill them so young. I didn't understand what the animals actually go through. I just kind of recognized that they're animals and they deserve their own lives, basically. So I went vegetarian pretty much straight away when I realized that. And then I kind of knew veganism was the right thing to do, but it took me a while to get over that, like, but cheese, but chocolate. But yeah, then when I did, I didn't go back.
So was it a particular video that you saw? Was it just for your own research?
Lots of stuff on YouTube. Very much in the days of like Durian Rider, Freely the Banana Girl, people like that. And there was another guy, Adam Frewer, I think it was.
Okay.
But yeah, there was just quite a lot of vegan YouTubers I used to watch before I was vegan. But I don't think there was ever a specific video that I saw and I was like, okay, I can't support this anymore.
Okay. And what inspired you to take the Liberation Pledge?
Well, the first time I heard about the Liberation Pledge was actually at Vegan Camp Out. Have you been to Vegan Camp Out?
I went last year. It was my first year last year, and obviously I had tickets this year, but that's going to be put back because of COVID.
So it was like the year before last year, I think. I went to a talk by Alex Bez, who obviously we both know because that's how we met at his workshop in Bristol.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of it before. I had no idea what it was. I just sort of walked into that talk just like not knowing what I was going to learn about. And I think my first kind of thoughts were like more a feeling of relief, like, oh, if I can not be around people whilst they're eating animal products, that would be so good. You wouldn't have to feel that like awkward disconnect from people you love because they're like actively participating in something that you're putting so much time and energy and like emotional energy into like fighting against. But then I think like a lot of people, and I think the same as what the vegan skeins drama is now probably, is that second thought that comes pretty quickly after that, which is like, but am I then excluding myself from something? Am I like stopping those conversations from happening? Am I giving vegans a name of being weirdos who exclude themselves from the people that they love just because like they don't do what I think is right? But like learning about how it can be really effective, and I have found it to be really effective. And then it was a whole year later. It was actually at the Bristol workshop when I took the Liberation Pledge.
Okay.
And I just came to understand it a lot more and how to, like, I understood the reasons why I wanted to do and why I felt like it was the right thing. But I think it took me a while to come to terms with how that looks practically and how to make that effective and how to communicate with people about that in a way that works.
That leads us really nicely onto our next question, is how did you explain to your friends and family why you'd taken the pledge, and you know, what did you say to them?
So when I took the Liberation Pledge, I was already involved in quite a lot of activism, which had involved like direct action stuff like Meet the Victims, It involved like volunteering at sanctuaries, so like making like friendships and connections with these animals who would otherwise be in those horrible situations in the meat and dairy industry. So it was quite easy to kind of be like, I'm doing it because I've seen this and I've met these animals, and like do it from like my personal experience rather than just like the I know this happens and I know it's wrong kind of thing. But Alex Bears has a webinar about like how to communicate about it, and I kind of basically followed that because I was like jumping in the deep end of how to really present it well, because I'm really avoiding of confrontation at any costs. So I think that's also a really good thing though, because if you are someone who's very avoidant of like those difficult conversations, to then put yourself like on purpose in a situation where you have to have that, it's quite a bold action, so people realize that it obviously must be really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just explained that it hurt me and that I've been in like just took from my experience what I'd seen and shared pictures and shared like happy pictures of like animals I'd made friends with, and sadder pictures of farms I'd been in and things like that, and explained that I can't sit there with the people I love whilst they're actively supporting that, and I want to spend time with them still, but I want to invite them to eat vegan with me, or I want to invite like to do something that's not around eating animals' dead bodies.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. I mean, I think this is the thing. A lot of people have the confusion that the Liberation Pledge, once you take it, you're excluding yourself from family events or friends' birthdays. But you're not. Like my friend, her birthday, she had a barbecue in August, and I just turned up afterwards when they'd all eaten. So I was still part of it. And then, you know, with my family and friends, some mistakes I've made is I've just done it over the phone, or I've done it via message, and I shouldn't have. I should have done it face to face and made that connection and let them see the emotion in my face when explaining how I feel about the animals, and yeah, how upsetting it is. And you do want to spend time with them. I don't want to lose them from my life. I've lost enough people from my life since being vegan without losing any more. And what was their reaction? What was your friends and family's reaction when you told them?
It's all been really positive, actually. I mean, there's obviously going to be like a few people who think it's quite weird until they really understand like why and how it works. But so I told my immediate family, I invited them for a vegan meal with me, and I treated them to it, and I explained it there in person. And then other families I've had to like explain via letters and explain like over the phone, because I think it's really important when like telling people about it, I found anyway, that I don't want to like turn up and then be like, oh, by the way, this, I want to be like, explain it fully in advance, and then they can decide whether they want to accept my invitation to eat vegan with me, or whether they want to find a way that we can do something else. Yeah, basically.
Hope that firework wasn't picked up then.
No, I didn't.
No, it's the same. Yeah, you have to explain it in advance. So I made a big mistake when seeing family. We were traveling to see them in a different country, and my husband explained to them he hasn't taken the pledge. He is vegan, but he hasn't taken it, and they were quite upset and didn't understand it. And I think what we should have done is a video call, and I should have explained it. And that's the mistake I made with them. But then I've had other family and friends that have been fantastic. But I love that idea of inviting your immediate family to a vegan meal and treating them to it. I never thought of that. That's a really, really good idea. I like that. I should do that next time if I meet someone in the future. Can you give me an example of when you found the pledge difficult? So when you've come up to, you know, people have accepted it, or carry on.
So two things come to mind. One of them was earlier this year. I went on holiday with my auntie, uncle, mum, dad, my sister, and her partner. And I love spending time with all of them, and it's great. But it was all very much around eating. They're very food orientated, and so there'd be like a big breakfast in the morning, which would involve animal products. Then you go out for cake and coffee, which would involve animal products, and you go out for tea, which would involve animal products. And it was the specifics of the situation. It wasn't really possible for me to offer to cook for them, or to say, oh, I know this really good vegan place, or I know this place that does vegan stuff, would you have a meal with me? So I ended up spending quite a lot of time on my own. But the thing I kind of worked out was that it felt really difficult to be like spending all that time on my own when I'm supposed to be like with my family and with people I love. But it would also feel difficult to sit with them and eat like that. But it felt like it's going to sound strange, but like a more positive difficult to be like acting in line with my values, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'd just go for a walk, explore some new towns on my own, do some animal rights stickering, get food on my own. And it was, it's all right.
It's fine. And you've got that other time with them. I had a funeral recently, and I sat at the table with people that were eating animal products, but it was a different situation. And I think it's about working out when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And can you give me a good example, like when the Liberation Pledge has been positive?
Yeah, for sure. So with like family, so my grandma and my grandpa and also my auntie and uncle, I didn't think either of those would go for eating vegan with me, because they're big meat eaters. They've never eaten a vegan meal on purpose before, but they've all sat down with me multiple times and had fully vegan meals and offered it even when I haven't asked, and things like that. And it's just been really nice, and it feels really supportive, and you just don't have that disconnect when you start eating with them. Then it's actually comfortable, and it's how you should be able to enjoy a meal with your family without having that constant thought of like, that's an animal's body. I could have seen that animal a week ago outside the slaughterhouse when I was doing activism, and now I'm sat here and someone I love is consuming their flesh or their secretions, and it's just that very strange feeling you get. I assume other vegans get that strange feeling anyway.
Yeah, I think I didn't really get it before I became active. I think it's once I became active I felt uncomfortable. But I read a post on Facebook earlier on one of the vegan support groups, and it wasn't the Liberation Pledge, it was something else, and they said they'd just rescued some chickens or turkeys, and their friend knew about it and was then eating turkeys in front of them and telling her how great they tasted and this, that and the other. And she said, I don't know what to do. I said, take the Liberation Pledge, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's opened up conversation when you've taken the Liberation Pledge? Is it easy for you to speak to people around the table? Do they ask questions?
Yeah, 100%. I think because it's such like a bold action in a lot of people's eyes, like actually like having that conversation, they realize it's so important. Also, just wearing a fork around your wrist starts a lot of conversations. I found I wear it 100% of the time. Strangers will ask me about it. I've done like interviews about my music stuff, and I've been wearing this, and it's turned into an interview about the Liberation Pledge somehow. I think it's a lot more effective to have a conversation around the table when someone is enjoying a vegan meal, potentially for the first time their vegan meal, than if they're eating meat while you're saying, oh, it's really bad to eat meat. Well, obviously not like that, but that kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I found before I took the pledge, because I went just over a year I've been doing it, and obviously for most of that we've been in lockdown, I haven't had that many experiences, but I found before, if I brought up animal cruelty when people were eating animals in front of me, it kind of ruined the whole atmosphere of the meal. I wanted to bring it up, but now they're eating, because I can see them eating pig, and I'm like, right, do you know what happens? Like, I stood at a slaughterhouse and seen them go in, and they get lowered into a gas chamber, whereas when there's no animals on the table, it just feels more comfortable to do it.
Yeah, they don't have to defend what they're doing right now. They can actually explore it honestly.
Yeah, exactly. They don't put those walls up, do they? And how has the pledge affected you and how you feel about it?
I think really positively in general. There's obviously like a few occasions where like friends are all going out for meals or whatnot, and they don't want to change that to eat vegan, so you won't go, and it's a bit sad to not be able to have that personal boundary that you won't do that. But there's always opportunities to kind of invent your own opportunities to spend time with people and invite them to various other things that don't include eating animals' bodies and secretions. So that's great. And I feel like it's actually improved like my relationships with like family and stuff, because I've had to write these like heartfelt letters to them, and I've had to have these like difficult conversations with them to explain what I'm doing and why. So yeah, I think it's all around like a really positive thing.
Yeah, and you don't have that anxiety when you're out with friends and family anymore, I guess, as well. Because
Yeah.
for me, I would get really anxious, and I've like developed this saying since I've taken the pledge that my family and friends would rather have animals on the table than me sat around the table, which breaks my heart. Like
Yeah.
that food is more important than spending time with me. Not all of them. Like if any of them are watching, I've got my brother and my sister-in-law watch all my videos, and they are so supportive of my liberation pledge. They're not
That's great.
vegan. I will get them, but you know, they are really supportive and they're really open to it, and they back me up 100%. So they get it, they understand.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, it was the first video I did on my channel where it kind of clicked for them and they realized how important it was.
Yeah.
What would you say to others that haven't taken the pledge, and have maybe been thinking about it, or you know, and are not sure? What would you say to inspire them to take it?
So I'd say go about your life for a little bit and just make note of all the times where you are in those situations where you're sat at a table where people are eating dead animals and animals' bodies and secretions, and think about how you could go about making that an invitation for them to eat vegan with you, or how you could, if you were on the pledge and if you had that solid commitment, how you would work around that. Um, Also, watch that webinar by Alex Bez, because it's really, really, really helpful on the practicals of how to communicate it if that's something you might struggle with, or if you have a tendency of making people a bit defensive when you're talking about like animal rights stuff. But yeah, I totally encourage anyone to do it. I think it's really like good self-care if you're doing activism that involves animals, and I think it's really effective activism because it's a really good way to start conversations.
Yeah, I agree. I'll put a link to Alex's video so that everyone can see it. I hope the mic isn't picking up those fireworks. Luckily, my cat is chilled out at the moment, but apologies to anyone watching if you can hear the fireworks kicking off. But it is November the 6th, not November the 5th, so I don't know why they're still doing it, but
It's still going.
it's still going on. Last night was
Yeah.
horrendous. So thank you, and I hope that this interview inspires someone else to take the pledge and they can relate to some of your experiences and see how easy and liberating the pledge is. And get your fork on, as Mippy would say.
Woo.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have been inspired by Abby to take the Liberation Pledge, please drop a comment below and let me know. I'll pop all the links in the description about the Liberation Pledge website and where you can find support on Facebook. There's also a link down there of where you can buy a bracelet. I want to say a massive thank you to my patrons that support me on my Patreon page. If you enjoy my content and want to support me in making more, then please check out my Patreon page. That will be in the description below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share this video, and I'll see you next time.